In higher ed, we're all looking for big wins, but reducing a 75% application abandonment rate and achieving a 90% conversion rate, that's next level transformation. Michael Battersworth, CMO at Texas State Technical College, shares how they achieved this by streamlining the application process with Element 451.
Our Element journey began out of a necessity. We were switching to a new SIS, and the application process was going to pose some real usability issues for us. We felt that application was going to hamper our enrollment. So we began quickly to evaluate different CRMs, different applications. So for context on that, our conversion rate with the prior application had about 75% abandonment of people clicking apply to submit. And the first weeks after going live with Element, we saw an 80% conversion, and that's now up to 90. So improving the usability of that application on the front end process has had a significant advance in our intake.
When technology works for students, it works for you. Visit element451.com to see how simplifying the application process with artificial intelligence will lead to significant results for your institution. Welcome to the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, where we explore the impact of EdTech on the student experience with engaging, fun, and relevant conversations that honor the wide range of work happening all across the higher ed ecosystem. I'm your host, Dustin Ramsdell. I've been working in and around higher ed for the past decade, focused on student support and digital experience. Join me every week for discussions with some of the best minds in education technology. We'll be bringing you their perspectives on how digital transformation is reshaping the way we recruit, engage, and graduate learners. You'll hear firsthand accounts of how institutional leaders are developing their strategy, as well as get deeper on the stories of how these edtech tools are being built to foster better student outcomes. With that, let's get to today's episode. All right, welcome everyone to another super special live episode of the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, recorded live here at Transact 360 in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm super excited to be invited here to interview a whole bunch of folks. This is our second conversation, if you're following along. We are talking with a member of the Transact CBORD team. Reed, if you want to briefly introduce yourself, your title, and your role on the Transact team.
So my name is Reed Winkelman. My title is Vice President for Market Development and Strategy. The market development piece is really about brand awareness, making sure that customers in the higher education space are aware of the products and services we offer, helping to build momentum around opportunities, helping to support the sales team. And then the strategy piece is really more not about driving strategy, but about helping to take customer feedback, voice of the customer, voice of the market, and bring it back to share internally to help guide some of the decisions we make as we look to new opportunities and new products. So that's the role.
Awesome. Yeah, and I always appreciate folks like in positions like yours that get kind of this like unique vantage point and sort of like the whole sector and everything. What's been your favorite part of this T360 so far, or if you've ever been to ones in the past, like a favorite memory of this one or ones in the past?
Yes, so this is my first time actually at a T360, but I have been at a number of user conferences with CBORD over the course of my career. I did actually consider trying to sneak into a T360 when I was still with CBORD, and this one they let me stay. They gave me a shirt, gave me a name badge. It's all good. I think the opportunity to interact with customers in an informal space, either in the exhibit area or at some of the social events, is really my favorite part. It's good to get to know people on a little more personal level when they're not on their campus and I'm not in an office and we're not necessarily talking about products. That's the best part. There's lots of other great things, getting to see products, getting to get updates from folks, but really the personal interactions with customers is my favorite.
Yeah, any conference for me anymore, especially as like somebody who works remotely and everything, it's like I just want to be in community and like hang out with people who like talk the same language here. So, but one of the things we'll talk about here, so a couple kind of just big questions. What are you seeing right now when it comes to how mobile credentials are impacting student success?
I think mobile credentials are the single biggest thing that we do, and I'll preface this by saying I have a daughter who's a senior in college. I have a son who is just finishing his first year in college, and I have another son who's a sophomore in high school. So that's my focus group when I try to look at what is this generation of students looking for, and I can tell you that they are mobile everything. They all have desktop computers or laptops they can get to, but they seem to prefer to navigate their world on their phone. And because of that, I think having a mobile credential on campus is no longer a differentiator or a nice to. It's truly something that is expected by students coming into campus. We don't hand out brass keys anymore. We don't give Ethernet cables. Why are we handing out plastic ID cards and adding to landfill at the end of the year? So I think it's expected from students, and it is really a big part of the student experience on campus. One thing I will say about Transact and CBORD coming together, when you look at mobile credentials in the higher education space, we have more campuses that have launched, and we have better launches than any other provider in this space. So when I think about it's more, it's better, why would you risk that student experience with anybody else? So one of the things I'm doing next week is going to visit my daughter's college and continue to try and press them to move to mobile, because I think it's so important, even though she's about to graduate.
Yeah. Well, and I think the first conversation we had centered a lot on campus security and trying to find that balance of like convenience and ease of use with keeping things secure and everything. I think like that's part of it with like mobile credentials is sort of like the convenience factor, but it is sort of like a very tangible, visible, or kind of core way that you can show as an institution that it's like, we get what you're looking for, what you need, what you prefer, and everything is customers and everything. The idea of like, we want to give you the service or the support, the the access to resources and things. When this generation, and I just think increasingly, people who are navigating the world as like mobile first versus it being like, oh well, we presume that you're gonna like visit our website and do whatever else like on your computer. It's like, no, like they're doing everything like mobile first, and they're paying for things with their phone and everything else. So it's like you'd want it to all feel sort of seamless or intuitive or just natural, like with what they are sort of inclined towards. And I guess I'm curious if you have any like a quick take on that of like, I think the largest or most prominent outcome of mobile credentials is the convenience, but I do think the security and the safety is a big part of it as well.
Definitely the security and the safety piece. Because there's lots of other things on their phone that are useful, right? Like if my phone is my credential, it's also my phone. If I need to call somebody, contact somebody, text somebody because I feel unsafe or I need to get out of someplace. One of the other things I'll say, not just on the safety and security, but I think COVID taught the whole world to be mobile first, right? My local grocery store didn't want to take plastic cards. They wanted people to use a mobile payment. That was that was around safety around spreading disease, but safety on campus, I think more about a student needing access or needing to be able to get in touch with campus security, needing to be able to contact a friend, needing to be able to get into a residence hall quickly. And that's one of the other things we can do with mobile is we can actually process transactions much more quickly than we can when you got to dig into your wallet, pull out a card, even if you're carrying a lanyard or anything like that. So it is convenient, but that convenient and safety kind of goes hand in hand.
It's kind of like marginal convenience at certain times, maybe even just like, oh, I don't have to like dig around and then enter my PIN or whatever, but I think it's the acknowledgement that I think a lot of us maybe sometimes like don't want to acknowledge is that like sometimes that just like little bit of friction is enough for people to like not do things. Like the idea of us as, I would even just say generally human beings, it's like minimal friction can divert someone from following through on what they earnestly might have desired to do initially. So it's like, you want to try to just keep finding those opportunities, just increase convenience and just ease of use and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we talked about the other episode, is that like safety and security, like there's so much that, under that, like you said, it's like, it's even just like, you don't have to press buttons and, have germs spread or whatever. So like that didn't come up before. That's like another one to add to the list.
The watch is another big piece of it, right? That just makes it that much easier and that much more safe, right? I don't have to do anything but just hold my wrist up to the reader. I don't have to stop texting. I can.
There you go. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
So the other piece of this, or it sort of like doubles down, and certainly, if you were doing swipes and this and that, like, you're maybe getting some data from that. What sort of analytics are you seeing being impactful right now in your work with institutions?
I look at institutions, but I start with my kids as sort of my first barometer, and I see it. I've talked to a number of folks at different customer sites. We were talking about this last week at a conference. students that don't eat regularly, students that don't sleep regularly, don't do as well. And one of the big challenges that campuses have these days, and again, back to COVID, they've got students showing up on campus who are not prepared for a college education. They're not prepared for the rigors, and they're having to provide increasing support, and they want to. Identifying the students that need that support is a whole lot easier with some of the data that we can provide out of systems, using their credential, using some of their traffic patterns, looking at who's engaged, who's not engaged, are they going to events on campus. I come back to really basic stuff, like I said, eating and sleeping make the biggest difference for those students, and that's stuff that we have easy access to and easy access to analyze with the tools that we can provide customers.
Want to know what AI-powered, people-focused really looks like? The 2025 Engage Summit will show you how AI transforms engagement without losing the human touch. Join us June 24th through 25th in Charlotte for actionable insights, hands-on demos, and transformative strategies. Enrollify listeners save $50 with code Enrollify50. Sign up now at engage.element451.com.
Yeah, the idea of like if you're leveraging sort of an integrated kind of ecosystem that you're getting a lot of good analytics and insights and behavior data and stuff, you could be targeting outreach to the right people at the right time based on like what they are doing or not doing. So I think it is just really important to be surveying and everything. Like a lot of people will tell you that they like want something or they want it a certain way, but like they will tell you for sure with their behavior, like what they prefer, what they want, or whatever, so the idea of like, I've had it sometimes where like students will be like, we want more like evening and weekend programs or whatever, or especially like weekend programs, and then you'll do it and then nobody shows up or something, so it's the idea of like, that is the ultimate like feedback, looking to that as like a very good source, to kind of inform how you're approaching your work supporting students.
Yeah, and I can give you two stories on good interventions that actually were the result of data. And I won't say who the schools are, but there was a student that some of the residents' life staff were concerned about. And so they were able to use the transaction data to figure out where that student might be and say, oh, they're over in the student union, they just bought something. So we're going to send their RA over there to sort of casually bump into them, check in, see what's going on. Kind of, low-key intervention, but trying to check in with the student. So that's one example that the customer actually told me about. Another one is that they found a student that wasn't eating in the residence hall or dining halls, wasn't accessing the residence hall at all. And come to find out that this student happened to be particularly affluent, didn't want to live in the residence hall, and had their own apartment off campus. That may be something that's a little unusual for that particular population, but it means that student's not engaged. It's not part of the way that they want to bring a student into the campus community, get them engaged, get them connected, and make sure that they're matriculating in a 4-year time frame. So
yeah, well, and even just like the practicality of just like, hey, well, if you don't want that room, somebody else probably take it.
Exactly,
or just like
exactly.
I mean, certainly it could just be like informing, like a student is sort of like MIA or something. It's like, well, we know they haven't like accessed these things, and it may just be like, okay, they've sort of dropped off or dropped out of their classes, and you can kind of confirm things, or it can enlighten you to again, like when you can provide the right sort of interventions and outreach, and what should that say, what should that include, or having that also be like accessible to as many people, because it could be like, well, maybe the RA is the best person to reach out, or maybe an advisor, or whoever else, but as long as they're getting those insights shared with them in a timely manner and everything. As we wrap up, what are you watching on the horizon when it comes to your work? Like, what do you feel like people should be thinking more about or sort of planning for in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of the obvious things is how we can use AI to help inform decisions that we make, how we can use AI to help inform, and I don't mean just decisions about like how to manage the business and control costs. I mean, how do we use it to help us determine what services students really do want, despite what they're telling us they want, and making sure that we're meeting them where they want to be met. I think that's going to be a big thing. I've just started playing around with it for some of my own work purposes, and it's really, really powerful. Using a tool like that to help design meal plans that are not only the most cost-effective, but also exactly in line with what students want, or deliver other sorts of student services. I think that's going to be really important. I do think as the technology evolves, biometrics will continue to become more and more part of the system of campus life. If you talk to administrators, they are absolutely certain that students don't want to be tracked via biometrics. If you talk to students, they don't care. They're already being tracked by biometrics all over the place. I don't think it'll necessarily replace mobile credentials, because I think there's so much power in that phone and the computing power that is in your hand. But I think it will augment what people use to provide those services on campus.
Yeah, definitely good food for thought. There's that we're just like, well, yeah, I mean, like I use my like Touch ID and Face ID all the time.
Right.
Like, you know, how does that sort of have implications for any number of things? Because I think like that's where there's just like bleed through into like, you know, teaching and learning. If you're, you know, how we have sort of like virtual proctoring and everything, like you're going to have sort of like, you know, Face ID and stuff like that kind of playing into that. But I think, yeah, it's the idea of part of this sort of like brave new world of like the bountiful amounts of data that we have. Like, how can we leverage AI to help sort of synthesize and analyze and leverage some of these like tools that may feel new to us in like the higher ed space, but that idea of like just continuing to kind of take cues and keep an eye on things that become more normal in a lot of other aspects of our lives. Definitely helpful for me too. It's like I didn't think about that either. Of like, oh yeah, you know, biometrics and stuff. Like it's good stuff for folks to be thinking about. Appreciate you for hanging out and sharing all that you did, and just appreciate the opportunity to be here at Transact 360 to talk with great folks like you. So thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Geek Podcast. This show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly in your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.